right, this is live from the east side. I'm Pastor Matthew. We are a brand new program, so bear with us, but we're going to be talking about just life issues, having fun. Hopefully it will drop on Fridays, and we have our panel of experts. We're just talking about life stuff, that's what I mean. So why don't y'all say who you are, how old you are, and I have to think of a creative question. If you went to the pound and, no wait, here's my question. Okay, say your name, how old you are, something interesting. But let's say you went to the pound and you knew you didn't have the money, people you were living with said absolutely no dogs, but you saw that one that looked at you with the little flappy ears and the droopy eyes, and you could just, they were like, the dog you could tell had been praying for like 6 years to be adopted. It was old now, and it like had a mind connection with you. Would you adopt the dog?
Okay.
Okay, so wait, we'll start with the female side. We'll start with him first. Go ahead and say your name, age, and would you adopt? And you know what I'm saying? Like, looks at you with the big, like the ears, like a beagle or something, and you knew it would be a yap or two at the house.
Well, I have 3 dogs already, so that's no problem. You can't afford it.
Let's say it was a cat.
We'll think about it. 3 dogs and 1 cat?
Yeah.
That's not.
So be sure and speak up, say your name, go.
Well, my name is Gary. I'm 21. I'm going to be 22 soon. And with this whole cat and dog situation, I would have to get the dog or the cat and just explain it to my folks later.
So you'd hide it.
Just kind of like present it and see how they feel about it. And then, like, well, it's too late now.
You'd wait till December and like, here's your Christmas present, Mom, I love you. That's why you've been doing all the dishes, you say. All right, so we have one. What about you? Who are you and how old are you and would you take the dog home?
I'm Melanie and I'm 25. And I would probably see if I could find somebody who would be able to take the dog. Because I wouldn't want to like disobey the family, but I wouldn't want to like leave the dog. So I'd probably just find somebody like I would.
So who is this friend you would find? So you just like kind of like show up, got the little thing. You'd show up at your friend. Hey, just man, I need to go to the bathroom. You'd in the bathroom like turn left and go in the person's bedroom and leave it in the bedroom, and then you'd be going back and come out like, what's that sound? Oh, hey, oh my gosh, it's a dog. God has blessed you. So who's this friend that you would do this? Maybe they're watching.
Well, maybe just anyone that I know from from churches that I've been to, or just.
So would you do like?
Kind of call everyone in my phone.
So you go up, hey sister, got any prayer requests? You raise your hand. Melody, yes. I'm trying to find somebody that really could help somebody that's desperate and really that somebody feel and you probably do the fake tears and stuff, and then you have that person come up and say, yeah, I'd be willing to help you. Say, okay, and then you'd say, I'll come by your house later today, and then you just present them with the dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
You say that's what Jesus would do. What would church folks, what would Jesus do? Take the dog, all right? What about you? Who are you, how old, and would you take the dog?
Hi, my name is Deshandra. I am 24. So is it just one dog? Or
Okay, so there's 2. They're twins.
I feel like every cute dog you see,
Yeah,
you're just
there's
like,
two.
oh my gosh, this dog is so cute. Like every time I go, I have to adopt like all of them. So I might as well just like try to find a way to own the place. That way I can just like have them all and take care of them. Like have people like come and take care of them too. Cause like, I mean, you see cute dogs every day. So I'm supposed to just like adopt all of them.
Their answer is, what about you, Maya? You got your head a little more level here. She's gonna dump it on her friend. She's gonna like figure out how to buy the whole thing. His is the only logical one. I've already got a bunch of dogs, and what's another dog? And you're gonna, no, actually, yours is insane too. You're just gonna spring it on your, just bring it like, hey, look what I got for President's Day. It's coming up. All right, who are you? How old? And would you take the dog?
Hi, I'm Maya, and I'm 19. Yeah, I'm 19.
Shoot, it's like that sometimes.
Yeah, I'm 19 and I wouldn't take the dog no matter how cute it is. I'm sorry. The dog is cute, you know, I could go pet it, you know, visit every once in a while until it's gone, but I wouldn't adopt it.
All you'd have to do is say, after this program we do one time, say, hey, Pastor Matthew will take them to the shelter. They'd go in, she'd buy the shelter, you take it home, or you take it home, and then boom.
Yeah, we'll just, you know, collaborate, you know, work something out, you know, I could do that too, you know.
She's like, no.
That's good. So you met us all, and I'm Pastor Matthew. We're on the east side of Detroit. That's why I call it live from the east side in East Point, Michigan. We're East Side Community Church. But more importantly, this is a program where we hope you'll give us comments as we develop it, what we should talk about. We want to just talk about issues, talk about life, and talk about God, of course, Jesus Christ. But I thought we would start the first program by most of our little group here has grown up in church, so we want to talk about our church folks perfect, because sometimes there's a stigma that, you know, all church folks are perfect, they're all a bunch of hypocrites, lottie, but cookie cuttering them. But just since y'all are church folks, you grew up in the church, how do you process that question about, maybe share a little about your church background or your spiritual background? We will start with whoever wants to take it first.
I can say something. I'm definitely not perfect. So, I can say no.
But y'all all three have perfect hair though, right here? Their hair is perfect. So you can say, I'm not perfect, but my hair is great. All right, continue though.
But yeah, we're just everyday people who need the Lord. That's why I come to church, because I need the Lord. I don't come because I've got it all together, but I enjoy it too. I love it. But yeah, definitely not perfect.
What do y'all think about that? What do you mean need the Lord? It's good, but for those that maybe don't have a church background, don't completely understand, what do you mean by need the Lord? How would you explain that to somebody who doesn't have a background?
Well, basically, like all my issues and problems, nothing this world has to offer is ever going to fix it. And the only thing that's ever fixed my problems was the Lord. So that's why I need him, because he works.
So in your life, you've seen Christ come through time and time again, not just like a slogan or a saying or put a little fish on your car. You really have seen him come through time and time again.
Yeah.
It's a real, you're not just talking about
It's
something.
legit seeing, like, you know it's God.
Wow.
Can't be nothing else,
Yeah.
like nobody else. You just kind of just like, no.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. Same things. Like, I think people think that church people maybe appear or try to make themselves come off as perfect. Maybe because, like, I mean, you're trying to get yourself together, and in the process, you're going to make mistakes. But then when you tell someone else their mistakes, they're like, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that. But it's like, we're all just people. We're living just trying to do the right thing, and you're going to stumble sometimes. So maybe they think we're supposed to be perfect. So that's why they...
So do y'all think it's more, people think church folks, wait, say that again? I'm getting confused. So do y'all think it's more church folks acts like they got it all together, or do you think it's more people think that church folks, you get what I mean?
I think they think that in their minds they probably think like, okay, they're supposed to have it all together because that's something that they don't know. Whereas if they came, and came to church and got to know the Lord themselves, they'll see like, oh, they're not perfect. They're trying to be this way, Like they're trying to follow this road, but sometimes, you're going to slide off and you just come right back. You're just trying to keep on the road.
What do you think, Maya?
First off, like, everybody has a different background. Like, I knew this one guy, he's, successful in doing his business, it looked like he got his life together. I don't know him personally, but, that's what he goes off base by. And, he doesn't know any God or whatever. And, I tried to tell him about it, but I guess he looked at me first like, oh, you think I'm supposed to know God in order to get my life together, but I already got a job and everything. People just look at that as, oh, you going to church, oh, you doing that, you got a job, you think you're all good now, but I don't know, God, I'm doing the same thing as you, successful as you. So I guess they look at it as that we supposed to know God, of course, we just have to let them know that there's a reason you were put there, God helped you, you're on this earth, you didn't do it all by yourself, so I'll just let him know that.
So before we get to Gary, one thing all of you have said is, in life, you see God and Jesus is real. Like, it's not just this thing that's kind of haphazard. In other words, the stuff that people would say, and some people would argue, say, oh, it's all random and whatever. But for you, you tangibly see Jesus as a real person in the details of how you get through life. Whether it's promotion, whether it's defeat, but all through that, the presence or the reality of Jesus is there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Gary, what do you got to add?
Well, about the perfection question, I'm definitely not perfect. I don't know anybody who is. I've never met someone who is. All I know is that God is perfect. And that's why we seek him out and try to be like him. I feel like that's where the confusion comes from. We try to follow his influence, and he is perfect. So maybe on the outside you may look at that and say, oh, well, they're perfect, but definitely not. It's just trying to imitate and be like whom the only one you should actually be trying to be like, God, Jesus.
Okay, but let's also deal with the reality of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Because since we've grown up in church, kind of the insiders, you could say, we've all seen people in church that for whatever reason, you know what I'm talking about, kind of like the crusty, judgy people.
Oh, yeah.
Like their eyebrows work on steroids. Like the only thing, like they may not have any muscle, but they work out their eyebrows. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can just do that.
You see that little
Yeah, you
arch?
can see it like.
All right, we did it when we were practicing for, but give me your best church judgmental look, because I'm just curious, being a pastor, I'm excellent at it, like, and then you got kids, you're like, hey, and you say their name, like when I'm preaching, I'll say, oh, that person's name, what? When I say your name, generally, it's not because I'm like perceiving God's movement, it's like I'm trying to, it is what it is, but let me get your best judgmental prepare. Are you ready, Maya? All right, so you are showing us, you're not a very judgmental person, I'm saying, let's see your best judgmental look.
Not ready.
Okay, not ready. Gary, let's do yours, you can be stoic. Oh, no fear, he's got the glasses. Do that again, that was good. Wait, let's do it again. Oh, yeah, that's always an old guy that does that, or the grandma. All right, let's see yours. Best judgmental look.
I don't know. Like, I'd have to kind of be in this situation.
All right, so she's not got one. You got one?
I don't know, just like.
The shaking of the head. Yeah, it's never good. Maya, you got one? Oh!
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Maya,
I felt like I had to cover up.
She turned her head. We went once over. So we've all seen these kind of judgmental, maybe we've been there once or twice, don't want to admit it, but explain about that. That is real in church. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like people, I don't want to say, you know what I'm saying? Like, talk about that. Maybe you had a personal experience with it.
The judgmental looks or the
Just in general, that attitude.
attitude.
I'm better than you attitude.
I think that attitude comes from a sense of, okay, well, everyone here is supposed to be trying their best. Are you trying your best? Is like that. But if people don't look at themselves and ask themselves, am I trying my best? And that creates that judgmental attitude in the church and outside the church.
And I think the other thing it does, and again, because we admit it, we're following, imperfect people. We all have done that at one time or another, so I don't want you to come out like, we're beyond that. We're not in the judgmental zone. We all have done that. The Bible actually says, people look at the outward appearance, the Lord looks at the heart, God looks at our heart. So we are experts at evaluating on the outward appearance. I mean, if you go for a job, you're not going to get the job, you look like a slob, unless it's like a job to be a slob. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, That's okay, but we're talking about in church where God looks at the heart. What I'm saying is, how does that impact you when you're in that, you're trying really hard to follow God, but you seem to be around other Christians or church folks that keep reminding you of your imperfections. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How does that impact you?
I think it can be kind of intimidating at times, because it's like, it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to get myself together, and then, if somebody else does something, it makes you feel like, oh, okay, well, let me not try this. I think that comes from, like, if you have to, like, it's easier said than done, but I think you have to, like, not worry about what somebody else sees or what somebody else does, like, or how they look at you. It's like, if you're trying to do the right thing, then you stay on it. Like, don't let somebody's look deter you from that, Like, okay, I'm not gonna go to church because every time I go, they look at me like this, and it is a struggle, but it's like, you just gotta keep going. You gotta stay focused on it.
Do you think that sometimes we base our perception on how people look and we really don't know?
Yeah, I think that's true too.
Yeah, it's like perception.
That person looked at me. I've had this happen before as a pastor. Somebody come up and said, that person didn't like me. I'll say, how do you know? I saw how they looked at me. Well, I don't, it's hard to base it. We do base it on how people.
Mhm. Yeah, it's easy to as well.
Right. And I guess it goes back to of where you're at. If you're at church, you're going to act a certain way, and when you go to work, you're going to act a certain way. If you're with your friends or whatever, or you're going to meet someone, and and you just get those different kind of people in those certain kind of places. At church, when I first started coming here, they trying to help you, if they want to. You can see that, if you feel that from, that connection with the person that's trying to help you, But other than that, you can, anybody can go on the streets and, try to help you and talk to you. You just gotta see it,
So what's it mean to be a healthy church person? In other words, let's say there are some hurtful people in church. I'm not saying our church, but I'm talking about a generality of church culture, because we have a lot of churches in America. But there are some hurtful people in general. There's the judgmental kind that's normal, we get evaluated, but then there's the kind that is very hurtful in how they deal with us. What are some qualities of somebody that's hurtful? Does that make sense? It's one thing, you're not doing well, they come up to you and say, you're not doing well. That's can be valid, but I'm talking about the person that's critical. You know what I'm saying? Like, like you're not dressing, and they just don't have, they have a very critical, well, that's one thing, they're critical. And sometimes they put you down just to build themselves up.
Like legalistic, I've had a lot of.
What do you mean?
Like, I've went to churches before where if I didn't wear a dress all the way down to like my ankles, you're considered like indecent, and they would make you look, they would like shun you basically because you didn't look a certain way or act a certain way. And it's like, that's not what God wants. Like, Jesus loves the unlovely. He loves the people who most people would look at and be like, what is going on? The people who, like, most people would be like, they're never going to make any, they're never going to amount to anything.
So it's like
Those are
their judgment, it's not like where they're helping you, like let's say the dress issue, they're not doing it with the idea of let's improve you, it's the
Yeah.
idea of you're less than.
Right.
It's one thing to say,
Yeah.
hey, you need to be modest, that's not a problem, but, oh, you haven't measured up to my standard.
Right, it makes you feel like, something's wrong with you, and why are you gonna even, like, bother, So it's just so key to, I don't know, just, I don't know what I'm trying to say exactly.
That's what you said.
I
No,
think
you
it's
said
one
it
of those
good.
things, like as far as like when, I think we all have been in those situations, like you said, like where you wear something, or maybe you just, some churches, like you can't walk while the pastor is talking, and then when you walk, then they make you like, they like scold you and make you feel like, oh, okay.
What do you mean scold you?
Like, they make you feel like bad, like, it's like they look at you and you already.
Isn't
like,
that amazing?
know.
Oh my God. Church people do have a power, and it's this
Yeah.
thing where, like, you can feel their looks. Like, their looks are like they have like a superpower arm that like is invisible and like touches you, but it's not a good thing. Like, they have the laser beam touchy-eye churchy thing, right?
Yeah, and it kind of just makes you feel like, oh, okay. So I feel like if someone, like, you know, church people can learn, church people or people in general, like if you want to tell someone something, I don't think it's nothing wrong with telling someone, hey, you know, this isn't the right way, but I feel like to effectively do it, you need to let someone know why. So what if I wore this dress and I thought this was okay, but it's like, okay, it's not really so much as the dress, it's how I'm supposed to be, and you know, in general, I'm supposed to dress modest. If I don't know how to do that, don't make someone feel bad for not knowing how to do it. Teach them, hey, you shouldn't do this because in the Bible it says this, you know? Kind of help them
Hold that
understand.
point for a minute, Gary, what do you got to add? Because
Well, like the last thing she just said, what she said, this is what it says in the Bible. Because a lot of the time we can add things that it doesn't say in the Bible. Certain, like, such as the legalistic things that she was speaking on.
So you're saying we can, church people, we're talking about the negative, where they hold you to something that's not in the Bible.
Yeah,
Exactly.
more so traditions and things that they have decided upon themselves. So it's important to look at the Bible and be like, okay, well, it says this here, so take this into consideration and not my opinion into consideration.
I want to say that that's a problem where the church will say something that's correct. Modesty is a good thing, right? We're not disagreeing with it. This isn't like, hey, it's bad to wear a dress in church, or modesty is bad. It's actually very biblical. But something you said is really true, and anybody's watching this and is into church, not just jumping on somebody because they don't measure up to the standard, first explaining to them, because we can jump off, well, they should know that. Well, that's not true in this day and age. They should know that. Well, it's just explain the principle behind it, or why do we do that. It doesn't mean we change our standards always, but it does mean we give some grace to explain why do we do that.
Yeah, because maybe they don't know.
Exactly.
Right.
And, you know,
And
and
then when you, oh, go ahead.
no, and you know, from what I said earlier about different places, you know, you dress a certain way at different places. Like, you know, she said she was gonna wear a dress that was, you know, not at her knees or whatever. You know, it's okay, you know, just tell them, you know, okay, you know, just, you know, say how you feel about it, have a conversation about it, you know. Of course, you know, the church says, you know, dress modest, or however the rules are at church, you know. You know, you go to, you know, a certain occasion like a party, or a party dress, you know. So, you know, some people, you know, just decide, you know, they should wear this, you know, the church, you know, it's a nice place, so they shouldn't care.
So why is it dangerous to do something without understanding the why behind it? Because that's exactly church culture. We always do that. Oh, don't question that because that's the way we do it. But why is that dangerous to do something? And it may be a right something, but to do it without the why behind it. What is the impact? How does it impact somebody?
I feel like because of a person, they could probably feel like you're not really trying to help them. Because I feel like if a person really wants you to, if they really want to help you in a way that'll change you, that'll change your mindset, they'll tell you why. You know, like, hey, this is why we don't do this. Because, you know, keep going to the dress because that's the example we're using. Maybe she's like, okay, I wore this dress because I thought it was cute. Like, you know, I thought this was a nice dress. So I feel like if you tell them why, they'll know, hey, you know, it's not even the dress. It's not like we don't like the dress, we think it's an ugly dress. We just, you know, in general, you should want to dress modestly. So maybe they don't know what it is to dress modestly. Maybe they don't know, hey, you know, maybe they think me coming with something short, it is modest because it's not as short as I really wanted to wear it, you know? So you gotta let them know first, hey, what is it? What is modesty? Why should I dress this way?
And the other thing it does, so let's say the person who's the Christian, because you said legalism, let's say they grow up doing all the right things, but they don't know the reason why. What kind of Christian does that produce? An eggshell Christian.
Yeah, like kind of like dead in a way.
They're doing the right things. Again, if you're listening to this,
Oh.
don't hear us say we're against modesty or against dress in church. What we're saying is there needs to be some meat on the bones. There needs to be something meaning. What do you think, Gary?
I think that when a person follows, okay, well, this kind of judgments that are made, these kind of judgments that are made by Christians in the church that aren't necessarily completely biblical. So maybe.
I'm saying the principle behind
Yeah,
it.
the principle behind it, I think it causes certain Christians to have a certain mentality where it's like they're following the church members more than they're following Jesus. And that ends up causing them more trouble in the long run, making them believe they have a relationship with Christ, but it's more so than following the laws or just rules. It's just the rules instead of reasons behind it, meaning behind it.
So they're not following, in other words, we talked even at the beginning about we're imperfect, but you said it really good. Christ isn't, or God is perfect, and we're following Christ. But what these rules and principles without explaining what they mean or what behind them, then we end up following a person.
Yeah, and I think it's like if you don't, because actually this kind of like happened to me like for a long time. Like I did go to church for a long time, but it's one of the things where it's like I did everything that I was told not to do. You know, like I kind of just did it because I'm like I'm not supposed to do it. But not until I got older that I started like wanting that actual close relationship or doing the right thing, because it's like, well, why should I be doing this? So now that I know why, it's like, okay, now I understand. Now I'm doing this because I want to, not just because, oh, they told me not to do it. You see?
So I want to dovetail on that. A lot of people talk about your generation. One of the reasons we're doing it is that you're leaving the church in droves, and statistically that's pretty true. Would you say one of the biggest, and again, it stinks to generalize a group because we're all individuals, I don't like that, but would you say generally it's true that it's not that your generation is leaving the church isn't giving you guys answers and reasons to stay?
Yeah.
And you can disagree, I don't wanna say that's, react to that.
Okay, I had something to say. As far as that, I feel like that ties into this conversation really well, just because I feel like without the context to why someone is doing something, it's gonna feel like just a burden. They're not gonna see it as something that they wanna do. They're gonna see it as something that needs to be done because it's gonna offend someone around them. So it's like, well, why would I go to church if every time I go, I make someone upset? I'd much rather be somewhere where I can be comfortable. And the church becomes an uncomfortable place for them. Whereas if they were given the context and reasonings why they're supposed to do it biblically, that would cause them, ideally speaking, cause them to actually want to do it and not feel like it's any problem at all to be following the guidelines God placed upon us. And that right there would keep them in church rather than making them feel like church is a negative space for them.
And I think it's maybe some of the older people, they've always existed in that, so they can't really bring the answers because it requires them to maybe realize they don't have a lot of meat on the bones, not entirely. What do you all think about that? What do you think, Melanie? You said you grew up in kind of more legalistic. Do you think that's true about your generation where it's like we do want real answers?
Yeah, I do. I think that like the church does I don't know, I feel like for legalistic, they're more judging you instead of like explaining to you like why it would be more beneficial to you to dress a certain way. Yeah.
Like getting the answers behind it and stuff, and being able to really ask the questions at a real level and stuff.
Yeah, I think like the first thing that's the most important is just like loving the person where they're at, on the way to where they're going.
So you're not saying loving doesn't mean I accept,
Mhm.
accept
Right.
blah, but it
Right.
means we have some kind of a context of respect where we can dialogue and talk about that.
Right, and regardless of, their, what they do, what they choose to do, you're still gonna love them and accept them I don't know how to explain it, it's just, I feel like the church today needs to just be more loving and accepting to other people, because I think that's where like the younger people, the younger generation, think that, well, if I'm gonna go there, I'm just gonna get judged or just not feel right. And just like being, like, just loving people for where they're at is really.
What do you mean by, I know you're like, I think I'm being clear, but explain what you mean when you say that, loving them and being where they're at. Because none of us have talked about, loving them doesn't mean we don't stick with truth and modesty, but what does that mean in the context of truth? Because some people will hear, oh, that means they can just be wherever they're at, and we don't evaluate according to truth, we're just permissive. But what does that mean to you, loving them where they're at?
I guess, like, regardless of their issues and things that they're going through, you're not gonna look at them any differently than you would somebody else. And just really being patient and like knowing that there is a why behind the why, and there's always like there's a reason for things that happen in life. Doesn't excuse it, but just like everyone's on that journey with things that happen in their lives, and just like loving the person for who they are instead of just like nitpicking at every little thing that I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right, because the whys are really key, because you're not gonna fix like, that one guy we were talking, and he expected me to, he's got tons of tattoos, some of y'all met him, and he'll be on the program actually, and he expected me to do the typical thing of like, you shouldn't have tattoos, and I don't like tattoos, I don't have any tattoos, but I said, I'm not gonna tell you that, because you gotta figure out why you're getting so many tattoos. It doesn't matter if you're not gonna stop till you figure out the whys behind it, and trying to respect and appreciate that. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
I was just like, I know she was trying to say kind of, because I mean, like I said, I felt that before too. One of the things is I feel like they should not be accepting in a way that they're accepting what you're doing, but they should be understanding at the pace at which you're going, you know, because sometimes if they don't like be understanding to the pace that you're trying to go, it can seem like they're trying to force you, and I don't feel like
Yeah.
Like
forcing.
putting pressure on you.
Yeah, pressure in a way to where it's like, okay, you putting pressure, but it's like I want to get there, but I'm not saying it's wrong to put a little. Sometimes people need like a little, you know, little push here and there, but not like a force where you just like, no, you gotta do this, because I feel like it'll be easier for somebody to stray off. You know, if you like forcing because they like feel like, well, all right, I guess I gotta do it, but they wasn't really ready to.
So by being pushy, it's a balance, it produces the opposite of what you're trying to get.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, well, they pushing me, I'm not ready, so all right, now I don't want to go at all, so I'm just about to go now, because that happened. You know, I think that's a common thing.
You've seen that to be true in your own life.
It
You can
happened to me.
testify.
Yeah, I can, and you know, friends as well. It can have a negative effect. You want someone, if you really want someone to get to God or to get to where they're trying to get to, you can tell them everything, but that's not going to make them get it. You know, you gotta be understanding to the pace that they're going, and you have to teach them, tell them why, and they have to change, you know? They have to want to do it.
Maya?
Yeah, she took the words right out of my mouth, actually, you know, and